Man, that's a long story to talk about. Barry's respectful to those people that he feels don't want to take advantage of him, and that's the best way that I can explain it. Is Barry's good to a select few teammates. He's selective with the media he wants to talk to. He's great with young kids. He's got a great personality with young people, and I think because those young people are the most innocent on the planet, so so they don't want to take advantage of you at all. So he's great with them. But I could tell you, Barry is one of the best players I ever saw play the game, and that was early in my career, and he got better and better. And Barry did his job and went home. He didn't socialize very much, and he was similar to me in a way that he played hard 9 innings, played his game, got dressed, and went home, and then came back and did the same thing and went home. There was no fluff to him. There not a lot of camaraderie or funness going on in the locker room. I don't know what better word I can use. And he was quiet, and we bumped heads a bunch. It's kind of like your two brothers that were similar. They bump heads all the time. We bumped heads enough, but Barry, I was always kind of a pain in the ass for Barry because I felt like I needed to fire Barry up some way, and the only way I could fire him up is I needed to piss him off sometimes so he could be tougher and meaner and play more and play harder and I was that guy because I wasn't afraid of Barry, but we had a decent relationship. We had a very respectful relationship. Who knows what we'd say about each other nowadays, now that we're almost 60 years old. But
Jay Horwitz, special dishes, and made a conversation with my old friend for over 35 years, Jeff Kent. Jeff, before I forget, you were for 5 years in the 90s. You went on to be a superstar in the league. Anytime I call you, you always return my calls. How grateful I am for that, and it was good to hear from you. We had a conversation about 8 years ago, and unfortunately, we're kind of in the same place. We discussed why you aren't in the Hall of Fame. So you just put on the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee. 8 guys vote, 8 people on the ballot, all valid. And I don't want you to have to defend yourself, but let me just read these stats. 17 years, 290 batting average, 560 doubles, 47 triples, 377 homers, 18 RBIs, over 2,500 hits, more home runs than anybody in second baseman history. I just think it's a crying shame, you wave this slow. But you know what? The good guys get rewarded in the end. I'm just hoping that, the committee will vote in December, and I'm just hoping you get your just due. I know it's been a wait. I just hope it comes through for you. Nobody more deserving, Jeff.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jay. The thing that stood out for me on that are all the triples. Everybody said I couldn't run. I could hit a few triples every now and then. It's probably because the outfielders fell down and didn't know where to throw the ball. But, I don't quite know the thought process. I haven't been involved in it, Jay. I really haven't. I truly, I kept my nose down. I stayed clean. I just played the game. I try, sometimes I rub the media the wrong way because, I was fortunate enough that throughout my career, I was able to stay healthy and overcome injuries pretty fast. So I got a lot of games in, a lot of innings in. And, I think another stat that I don't think is ever talked about is more than half of my career, I played on teams that went to the playoffs. And that's pretty good when you're playing for 17 years. And, and I'm a Game 7 loser. I got a World Series ring with the Blue Jays in 92. And that's because I was traded to you guys for Coney way back in the day. And, and then starting the path with you in New York. And, if it wasn't for the Mets, I don't know if I'd have been prepared for the rest of my career. I think the Mets kind of hardened me a little bit. They educated me, and I got to play for one of the best managers I think I've played for, other than Dusty Baker, who I thought was the best. Dallas Green was incredibly awesome. He may
Tough
not have
guy, he was a good guy. Let me stop for a second.
Yeah.
The World Series, Toronto had a lot of tough day loss. You guys, with the Angels, you had a 5-0 lead in Game 6, and Unfortunately, you didn't lose. You lost Game 7. Did you watch much of the series at all this year?
This year, I watched a little bit of it, because of my Dodger history. Uh, the manager for the Dodgers, I played against him. I played for a bunch of coaches. Jose Vizcaino was in the
Yeah,
dugout. I didn't even
right.
realize that he was my counterpart for years, and so I watched. I don't watch a lot of it, baseball. I don't watch a lot of sports. I've never really been a big sports fan. So, but I watched it because I'm intrigued by how they are able to perform. The game's changed so much now. But I was in the Blue Jays. I had history with the Blue Jays, but that whole team is different. Don't know anybody on that team.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, I knew some guys. So, I stuck my head in and out, but I don't think I ever watched a 9 inning ball game. Just to give you an example, the extra inning ball game, they went into the 11th inning, and I told my wife, who was a big baseball fan, I said, I'm going to bed because these guys aren't going to score runs for another 5 innings because all they want to try to do is
You were
score a
right.
run. And
You
they're
were
going to
right.
swing and miss all day long. So I said, I'm going to bed. And then she came to bed about an hour and a half later, and she said, oh, the game's over. I said, I told you, the game's changed. It's crazy now.
So, Jeff, when you were with us, 92 to 96, of course, you played for a lot of bad baseball teams. One team in particular, the 93 Mets, 59 and 103. The worst team money could buy. That year, you 24 doubles, 21 homers, 80 RBIs, 270. What do you remember about that wonderful team?
Nothing in that. This was before the alignment, right? So I
Yeah,
remember playing in about the middle of summer, going, there's no way in hell we're going to make the playoffs. So our season was over. For me, it was over. It was done. I mean, what do you play for? I remember some tough times I had with the Mets. I had one of the outfielders, and forgive me for not remembering his name. He was a good guy, veteran player. I was struggling, came to me in the outfield, and he said, "Hey, Jeff, I know you're struggling." He says and when things are going bad, you play for yourself, your God, and your family. And that was the first perspective I had about, this game really is a business, and it's about you and about playing, especially when your team sucks. But
yeah.
Jay, man, I've wiped a lot of the crap out of my brain, and that's probably one of the crap years.
103 games is a lot of crap. There's one particular thing. I was in the middle of it. Bobby Bonilla gets into a fight in the locker room, and he goes to one of the reporters. I'm going to show you Bronx my way. Bobby starts to swing at the guy. I'm in the middle, getting hit in the head with a punch. Do you remember that fight? It was way in the back of the locker room. And then people wrote books about that, the worst team money could buy.
Yeah, so people reference the fact that I was part of that worst team money could buy. But Jay,
But you had a good solid year. You were one of the better players.
yeah, but you were involved in so much. I don't think people understand how great you were. You're you're amazing to me. That's why I'll answer your calls, and a lot of people I'll blow off. Almost everybody I'll blow off. But you call, I'm calling back. You were involved in a lot of that crap. You suppressed a lot of that crap. You were the great mediator between the idiot baseball players and the idiot reporters. And man,
One
kudos
year, I
to
don't
you for all
remember.
the things you've done, brother.
I don't want to thank you, Jim. I don't want to name names. Two of our guys were arrested for shooting off firecrackers in the parking lot at Dodger Stadium.
Yep.
I was having dinner with my Uncle Murray. I got to go to the police department, and the same year, one guy threw breaching a report. I mean, I kept me busy. Hey, I want to reminisce a couple things off the field. Um, One game, and I don't want to bring a tough memory. Dana calls me during a game at City right before a game start. You got to get a hold of Jeff for me. I said, what's going on? Our dog was just run over and killed by a car, and I had to track you down in the batting cage. Do you remember? To this day, this is how I know my memory's not crazy. So that's 37, 32, 33 years ago. One of the worst things I've ever had to do. I'm a dog person, and it was all the poor dog got loose and got run over the highway.
Yeah, and that was one of the worst games I ever had. So Dallas, so I found out about it, and I'm a dog guy, but I'm not overwhelming dog guy. So my dog died. Okay, I was more worried about my wife and my kid who were at home in Port Washington. So my dog had busted out of a fence we were renting. It was early in the year, I believe, and a golden retriever busted his way out of a fence, ran out in the street, and between two stop signs, it's less than 100 yards. Less than 100 yards. Some lady ran over my dog doing 40 or 50 miles an hour when the speed limit is probably 10. So I found out all about this, and Dallas Green said, "Hey, you don't have to play today." I said, "No, I'm a baseball player. I'll play today." So I'm playing third base, and I remember vividly, Jay, bases loaded, ground ball to me, and I kicked it right between my legs, and the ball went in the outfield. We ended up losing the game by a few runs, I guess it was, and I'm shaking my head because I made two errors that day on the day that my dog had died. And that, yeah, I don't remember a whole lot of stories, but I remember that one.
Jeff,
How
whenever
stupid am I that I kicked a can because my dog had got run over an hour
I
before the ball game?
I
That
was
wasn't.
I was petrified walking down to the cage to tell you, a
Yeah, you're
couple
a
more
good man
stats.
about that.
Five All-Star teams, MVP in 2000, four Silver Sluggers. In 2000, the Mets and your team, the Giants at that time, were interwoven. That year, MVP year, 334, 41 doubles, 33 homers, 125 RBIs. I want to talk about one particular game in May. It's Shea Stadium. You're on second base or third base. The great Benny Agbayani flies out to left field. Benny thinks it's his third out of the game. He throws the ball into the stands. You score, and then Benny was only two outs, and then we wanted to win the game 3-2 because I looked and said you scored the run when Benny threw the ball in the stands. You probably don't remember that game at all, do you?
I don't. I don't. I
Yeah,
remember some bad games. I don't remember all the good stuff that happened. I remember me and oh man, another outfielder teammate of mine. We were their ball. It was in the playoffs, I think. Jay, we tried to with two runners back to back got tagged out at home plate, and I think it was a playoff game or near the end of the season. And man, I swear it was a playoff game. But we got tagged out. He got tagged out, and I was right behind him, and I got tagged out. Double play by the catcher, both tags at home plate, and we looked like fools. So no, the game you're talking about, I don't even remember that game.
and Benny's a good guy, big roly poly Hawaiian guy, and then fan favorite, threw the ball in the stands. Didn't realize it's two outs. You scored the run. So that year, the Mets and Giants, great series. Unfortunately, we came on the top. Two memorable games. Uh, game three, 13th inning. The Benny Agbayani, same guy, hits the home run. We win in the extra inning. Do we recall that game at all?
You're starting to recall some of my thoughts in my brain about the playoff games that we had there at Shea. Disappointing because you guys went on to win the World Series that year. Is that right?
No, we lost to the Yankees in 5 games.
Okay,
We lost to the
okay.
Yankees in 5 games.
And
You know,
I thought we were a pretty good team, and we go in there and you guys kicked the crap out of us, if I remember right.
yeah. Well, that really kicked you. The next day, Bobby Jones pitches a one-hit shutout, and you get the only hit in the game, a double in the fifth inning. We win 4-0. Bobby Jones is a great pitcher. Probably pitched one of the great games in Mets postseason history against you guys. And you win 97 games, and you don't go on. It had to be a tough season for you.
Yeah, I remember Bobby Jones. He was a good dude. He was quiet, calm, had a good presence about him. Wasn't overpowering. I kind of remember that game. We, you know, Playing in Shea Stadium was a great experience for me. An unbelievable atmosphere. I thought the fans were rowdy. I felt like there was no give to the fans, though. They didn't. I, they were always punching you. I don't think they wanted to give you a hug very much. They were always punching you to be better and better. And the old feel of the Shea, the weather, the airplanes
The
flying in the
flames flying
outfield.
overhead.
uh, every time an airplane would fly over behind home plate, I'd always call timeout. Umpires would all be ticked off at me because I was doing that all the time. But Jay, no, you're recalling some games, brother. That I've just wiped from my brain. I vaguely remember some things, but not very much.
Yeah. But Jeff, so after you leave us, you get traded for David Cohn, then you go, you go to Cleveland, then you go to the Giants and you kick it up to another level. What was that? For 8 years, I think you drove in close to 700 runs in 8 years, and all the home runs and 30+ home run games and all the awards. What happened? It wasn't that you were bad with the Mets. I mean, but when you left the Mets, you just went whoop.
Yeah, no, the Mets just weren't collectively a very good team. We if I remember, I came over from in '92 for Coney, and the Mets were trying to rebuild from the worst team money could buy. So they
Right.
brought in some three young pitchers, but they were too young to pitch in the big leagues. I thought. Isringhausen was one of them who got to stay for a long time. Pulsifer was another, and I can't remember the third guy,
Paul
but
Wilson. Paul
Wilson.
Wilson.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Wilson got stuck around for a little while too. Good players, but I think it was before their time. And I'm out there, and the infield was trying to transition, and we just didn't collectively work together. And so I went through two general managers and two or three managers when I was with the Mets in a 5-year period. And I left. I finally got traded out of New York, went to the Giants, a little more stable. Dusty Baker was a phenomenal player coach. He was a hitting coach who was also the manager. And that team was built a little bit better. Barry was on there. JT Snow was on there. Jose Vizcaino, got to play with him every day. So just the consistency of what was going on in San Francisco. And plus, I was from California. I went to Berkeley, up Northern California. So that was my area. I knew it well. Just all the comfort factor signals just went through the roof. And I don't think my batting average was great, but I got to play on a team that was producing runs. It was better weather. The field was a little better. And, the fans were more receptive. And we were winning. So, when you're winning, it's easier to play better, too. So those are the biggest reasons why my career took off, Jake.
But Jeff, how was it played with Bonds? I mean, how?
Man, that's a long story to talk about. Barry's respectful to those people that he feels don't want to take advantage of him, and that's the best way that I can explain it. Is Barry's good to a select few teammates. He's selective with the media he wants to talk to. He's great with young kids. He's got a great personality with young people, and I think because those young people are the most innocent on the planet, so so they don't want to take advantage of you at all. So he's great with them. But I could tell you, Barry's one of the best players I ever saw play the game, and that was early in my career, and he got better and better. Barry did his job and went home. He didn't socialize very much, and he was similar to me in a way that he played hard 9 innings, played his game, got dressed, and went home, and then came back and did the same thing and went home. There was no fluff to him. There not a lot of camaraderie or funness going on in the locker room. I don't know what better word I can use. And he was quiet, and we bumped heads a bunch. It's kind of like your two brothers that were similar. They bump heads all the time. We bumped heads enough, but Barry, I was always kind of a pain in the ass for Barry because I felt like I needed to fire Barry up some way, and the only way I could fire him up is I needed to piss him off sometimes so he could be tougher and meaner and play more and play harder and I was that guy because I wasn't afraid of Barry, but we had a decent relationship. We had a very respectful relationship. Who knows what we'd say about each other nowadays? Now that we're almost 60 years old.
Jeff, I don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, he's on the ballot, the contemporary ballot with you. What are your thoughts, him in Hall of Fame? Again, I don't want to really put you on the spot. I mean,
no, everybody's skirting him and Clemens and who's the other one that's on there too?
Sheffield.
The steroids, the performance enhancing drugs. Barry's in a tough spot. He's in a tough spot. What I think my skirted answer to not directly answer you, Jay, is I think baseball, as it's always done, needs to hold the integrity of its players that are in there. And Barry's got to answer to it. I can't answer to it. I, I don't know I don't know for 100% if Barry was a steroid user or not. I don't know if Mark McGwire was. These guys, some of these guys have said they were. I don't know. I never saw it, but I can tell you what I saw on the field, and it was extraordinary. Barry was a hell of a ball player.
He was always good to me, Jeff. He was very friendly with Bobby Bonilla, who was Pittsburgh Davis, and Bobby introduced me to him. Always very kind and hello. And I got to him a little bit because, he's Willie Mays' godson, right? Barry was, and so he was always very friendly. And yeah, digress 2 seconds. You active in promoting women's sports in college. I know you set up some kind of scholarship at your alma mater. Can you tell me a little about that?
Well, the simple version, when I went back home to San Francisco, where I went to Berkeley, had gone to Berkeley for 3 years, it was the time of my life where I'd started making some money. I was playing better. So you try to give back in some way. And I had my daughter running around the house. And most men, when they make a lot of money in sports, they give back to men's sports. So my daughter running around wanting to be somebody, I said, you know what, let's do something a little different. So I gave some money to baseball at Cal, but I wanted to create a legacy program. So we had created the women driven program at Cal, which would provide an endowment for scholarships for female walk-on athletes. And we established that through donations of mine, but we also had fun with it where for a couple years I would donate I kept $20 per RBI, and hoping fans would donate 5 cents, $5, whatever per RBI that I would drive in, and we'd collect money and we'd endow that scholarship over time. And that's what we've done. So we put in over the years, I think we put in close to $250,000 of money.
Right.
It's an endowed scholarship at Cal right now, where every year we give the school gives on behalf of Women Driven, gives a scholarship to the female walk-on athlete.
So last year I'm watching the College World Series, and Caden is up for the Texas A&M Aggies, and they show you watching the game how I think he had a hit of a home run now. Caden was drafted by the Yankees, right? 3rd round. He's still in the system. Yeah. How was it for you watching your son play in the minors?
Man, I am so grateful that I'm not playing anymore, but watching your kid play, son, daughter, I don't care. Watching your kid play on an elevated level in sports is the worst freaking thing I think I've ever done in my entire life.
Really? Anxiety?
It's exciting when it's good, but sports, most of the time it's bad. But not being able to help or give instant advice, or having your son listen to you when you say, hey, I did that, so don't do that. You're trying to give them advice to not do that, and they blow you off. And that is the hardest thing for my wife and I to do, is sit in the stands and watch our kid play sports.
You yell at the umpires, Jeff, or no?
No, I stay. No. I had my time with the umpires, but no, I tell my son, well, you strike out. I said, well, you didn't strike out on the 3rd pitch. You struck out on the 1st pitch because you missed it. You fouled it off. That's your fault, not the umpire's fault. You left the umpire, who's stupid, behind the plate. You gave the game up to him, and he called you out. It's your own fault, not the umpire's fault.
So, Jeff, you're on a ranch now in Austin?
Yeah, man. When I retired, I put myself back in the game pretty quick. I did some, coaching with the Giants for spring training. I did a couple functions with some other teams, but I found out that it just wasn't rewarding anymore. And I wanted to, Jay, when I retired, I told myself one thing: I'm never going to be my coach's son in Little League. Never going to happen. So I retire, I go back and I coach, with the big league guys, and that was okay. But then I come home and I start watching my own son play in Little League baseball, and I'm going, there's got to be a better way. So I ended up being a coach for my kids, coach them all until they're done. And now Caden's, been taken over by the Aggies and now the Yankees, which is a great program the Yankees got going on over there. And I'm happy about that. So now I'm chasing grandkids around and running a working ranch. I've always had a ranch ever since I signed with the Giants a long time ago. I sold our home in Texas, bought a ranch, and then we moved out to San Francisco area, lived there while I was playing. So I've always had a working ranch, raising cows, raising beef cows, and raising Japanese Wagyu, Akaushi beef cows. And
What is that? What is Japanese wakuzi?
so Japanese Wagyu is just a name for a Japanese cow. We raise Akaushi, which is the breed line, the red cow out here in America. So it's the Japanese high-end, high-dollar beef that you're buying in all those rich steak restaurants you have out there in New York. We're raising that beef, and I'll sell back to friends. We slaughter some of our cows and sell meat back to the local area VIP friends, and then I also do a calf program where I'm selling back into the market. And who knows, Jay, you may be eating my steak at Peter Luger's out there.
Hey, Jeff, two things. You've been a great friend all the years. I'll be pulling for you in December. Hopefully, it'll work out this time. The wait's been a long wait, long overdue. No better player. And again, Jeff, I go back to that sad day. I had so much respect for you when I saw your reaction when I told you your poor dog had died. And anybody has a kind of reaction when they lose a pet is okay in my book. But again, all the best. I'll be pulling for you in December. Thank you for your time. Please tell Dane I said hi, and let's stay in touch.
Jay, take care of yourself. Anything I do for you, let me know, brother. Good luck to all those people out there.
Good, Jeff. All the best, huh?